Listen closely, my friends. There is a very specific kind of power that most people never learn how to use. It is not the power of saying more. It is not the power of arguing harder, explaining yourself further, or trying one more time to make someone understand your worth. We have all been there. We have all sent that long text message trying to explain how we feel, only to get a one-word reply. We have all tried to convince someone to value us, only to realize we are the only ones fighting for the relationship. The real power lies in something entirely different. It is the power of simply stepping back, quietly, without announcement, without drama, without a big emotional exit. Let me be very clear about what this means. You are not disappearing to punish anyone. You are not playing a mind game. You are not using the silent treatment as a manipulation tactic to force a reaction or make them feel guilty. You are stepping back because you finally understand something the ancient Stoics understood 2,000 years ago. Your presence is not owed to anyone who has stopped valuing it. You do not have to keep showing up for people who only show up when it is convenient for them. And here is what happens almost every single time when you do this. The person who barely noticed you when you were fully present suddenly notices your absence in ways they never expected. Today, we are going to look at 10 things they tend to feel when you simply quietly disappear. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." That same principle extends further than most people realize. You also always own the option of having no presence in spaces where your presence was never genuinely valued. Let us look at exactly what happens on the other side of that choice. Number 1. They feel the silence where your effort. Used to think about the dynamic of the relationship before you stepped back. You were probably the engine keeping it running. You were the one sending the good morning texts. You were the one suggesting plans for the weekend. You were the one asking, "How are you really doing?" and actually listening to the answer. When you stop doing those things, the absence is immediately noticeable. It creates a massive void, even if they never once acknowledged your effort while you were doing it. They will absolutely notice when it stops. The phone stops buzzing. The calendar stays empty. The conversation dies. Seneca wrote, "While we wait for life, life passes." They were waiting comfortably, assuming your effort would simply continue forever, like a faucet that never runs dry, but it does run dry. And when the water stops flowing, the silence tells them exactly what they lost. They are forced to sit in the quiet space that you used to fill with your care and attention. Number 2. They question what changed at first. There is usually confusion. They start asking themselves questions. Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Did something happen to them? They are looking for a dramatic reason for your absence. They expect a fight, a betrayal, or a huge argument. They are scanning their memory for the moment they messed up. But what actually changed is very simple. You just stopped extending effort towards something that was never being returned. You stopped rowing the boat alone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look at things for what they are, not what they appear to be." They will search for a complicated explanation because the simple one is too uncomfortable. The simple explanation requires them to look in the mirror and admit that they were taking you for granted. They have to admit that they didn't put in the work. So you stopped putting in the work. And that is a hard pill to swallow. Number 3. They feel a flicker of panic. This doesn't happen with everyone, and it isn't always a dramatic, movie-style panic. But often, especially from people who quietly relied on your presence more than they ever admitted, there is a sudden, sharp anxiety. Think about it. You were their safety net. You were the person they could call at 2 a.m. You were the one who always remembered their birthday, who always showed up to their events, who always had their back. When that safety net vanishes, they realize they are standing on thin ice. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that people often only recognize the value of something once it is removed. We don't appreciate the air until we are choking. We don't appreciate the ground until we are falling. That flicker of panic they feel is simply delayed recognition. It is the sudden, uncomfortable realization that they lost something valuable, and it is arriving far later than it should have. Number 4. They try to reach out, sometimes too late, eventually. The confusion and the panic turn into action. They will try to reach out. It might be a casual text. "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while, everything okay?" It might be a random meme sent to your phone. It might be an invitation to hang out of nowhere. They are testing the waters to see if you are still available, Marcus Aurelius wrote. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Here is the important part. You do not owe them an immediate response. Being a good person does not mean being endlessly available the exact second someone finally notices you left. If they reach out, take your time. You don't have to ignore them, but you don't have to jump at their command either. Respond on your own terms, in your own time. Let them feel what it is like to wait, just like you used to wait for them. Number 5. They realize. How much you were actually carrying this is the moment the invisible labor becomes visible. When you were in their life, you were probably doing a lot of heavy lifting without them even noticing. You were managing the group chats. You were planning the trips. You were remembering to ask about their job interview. You were absorbing their stress and making them feel better. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." They were spending your time and your emotional energy freely without realizing how much of it there actually was, because it cost them nothing. When you step back, all those tasks you used to handle silently suddenly fall onto their shoulders. They have to plan the dinner. They have to remember the dates. They have to manage the logistics. And they quickly realize how exhausting it is and how much you were doing for them behind the scenes. Number 6. They feel replaced by the silence itself. This is the most powerful part. Nothing dramatic happens. You didn't block them. You didn't send an angry paragraph. You didn't make a scene on social media. There is just quiet, steady absence. And that absence becomes its own kind of statement. It is louder than any argument you could have ever had. When you argue with someone, they can argue back. They can defend themselves. They can twist your words. But they cannot argue with silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." You do not need to say anything to make your point. The absence says it clearly enough on its own. It tells them, "I am no longer participating in this dynamic." And that silence forces them to sit with their own thoughts, with no one there to distract them. Number 7. They wonder if they misjudged the relationship once the initial shock wears off. A quiet re-evaluation begins in their mind. They start asking themselves hard questions. Was I taking this for granted? Did I actually value this friendship the way I assumed I did? Why didn't I try harder? Epictetus said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." They are forced to look at their own behavior. They have to ask themselves if they were actually a good friend, or if they were just a convenient one. Their reflection is not your responsibility to manage. You don't need to help them figure it out. Whether or not they reach the honest conclusion is entirely up to them. But the seed of doubt has been planted, and they will have to water it themselves. Number 8. They feel the specific discomfort of losing controllers. Long as you were present, available and consistent, they had a certain kind of control over the dynamic. They knew that if they wanted something, they could just ask, and you would say yes. They knew that if they ignored you for a week, you would still be there when they came back. They took your reliability for granted, and that gave them a sense of security and control. Your disappearance removes that control entirely. They can no longer predict your behavior. They can no longer assume your availability. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." By stepping back, you have simply reclaimed the power that was always yours to begin with. You took back control of your own time, your own energy, and your own life. And for someone who was used to having easy access to you, that loss of control is deeply uncomfortable. Number 9. They begin to genuinely miss you, not just what you provided. There is a massive difference between missing what someone provided and missing who they actually are. If they only valued you for what you could do for them, your money, your connections, your free time, your emotional support, they will just miss those things. They will look for someone else to provide them. But if the relationship held any real substance, if there was a genuine connection, a second kind of missing will surface. Seneca wrote, "A friend is one with whom you dare to be yourself." If they genuinely valued that version of you, the real, unfiltered, authentic you, they will start to miss your specific laugh. They will miss your unique perspective. They will miss the way you made them feel when you were in the room. If they valued the real you, the missing will be deep, and it will last. Number 10. They learn what your presence was actually worth. This is the final realization. They finally understand your true value, but they don't learn it through your explanation. They don't learn it through an argument where you list all the things you did for them. They learn it through the simple, undeniable evidence of its absence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Your worth was never something you needed to convince anyone of. You didn't need to beg them to see it. It was simply something they eventually had the chance to recognize. Once it was no longer freely available, they look back at the time you were in their life, and they realize how lucky they had it. They realize that people like you, people who show up, who care, who put in the effort, are incredibly rare. And they realize that they let a rare thing slip through their fingers. If this gave you something worth sitting with, share it with someone who has been giving more than they have been receiving. Let them know that it is okay to stop rowing the boat alone. New Stoic wisdom every single week.